when people are typing in stock market crash, right before the election, that tells you something. It's a contrarian signal usually.
100%.
Statistically, this is a very bullish signal with a 90% win rate. That's a 90% percentage positive.
And it's 90%, it's not 100%, but it's good
Yeah.
probabilities. That could be good for the stock markets.
And they're saying that we're now in one of the best seasonal times, seasonal windows for Bitcoin.
If Bitcoin's not at 100,000 by the end of 24, I'm going to eat my hat.
All right, guys, hello and welcome. So, what a night and day. Obviously, I'm joined here by my good friend Charlie Burton, and we're going to talk about, firstly, the election result, the shock election result. Well, I say shock, not everyone's shocked. I certainly was. And the second we're going to talk about is the stock market and then Bitcoin. So, it should be a very interesting video, guys. I think you're going to enjoy this. Charlie and I are going to dig into the election now that Trump has been elected president. So let's dig into some interesting charts and images. And we're going to talk about the implications for the stock market and Bitcoin, both of which, by the way, have exploded higher. So it should be quite interesting, guys. Join us. All right, guys, welcome back. Charlie, how are you doing?
Well, I'm a bit
Yeah.
tired actually because I was up at 1:30 UK time for
Same
the
as me.
election. So
Yeah.
yeah. So starting
I,
to just get a little bit tired.
I woke up sometime like about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning UK time. I switched on the news and wow, I just couldn't believe it. I have to tell you. And most people who watch my videos in the past, you saw my election video, I'm sure you did. And I said that because the stock markets had remained strong up until October, historically and statistically, that favors the incumbent, which would be, in this case, Harris. And that's why I presumed that Harris was going to win the election. Obviously, I was wrong. But I will say this, our viewers and our subscribers, our own subscribers were correct. So, guys, you are much smarter than I was because our viewers and subscribers voted in the poll and they said that Donald Trump was going to win the election. 58% of those who voted in the poll said Trump was going to win. And, guys, I'll admit it, you guys were right. I was wrong when it came to the election. Yep, Trump has won. I did not see it coming. And I think neither did some of the polls and even some of the pollsters out there. What about you, Charlie? Did you expect Trump to win?
I wouldn't say I expected it. No, I was, what I was surprised at, I thought if he was going to win, it would be very tight. What I was surprised is just the trouncing really that that the Republican Party have done of the Democrats in that regard. It's come through so swift, just state after state in a way.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the surprise. I thought it would have been a lot closer than it was.
By the way, I just want to make sure I mention this because some people are going to say, well, Alessio, you probably have a bias in some way. No, guys, I said this before. I did not support, and I still do not support any candidate. I don't care about Trump or Harris. However, I should say I find it interesting. That's why I watched it. So listen, guys, I will admit it one more time. I don't think we can use the stock market to make a prediction for elections. I know there's some people who are going to say, I'm sure, in the comments, that because the stock market remained strong up until October, that was supporting the view that Trump was going to win. Guys, I really don't think we can make that connection at all. There's no foundation to that. I think people just believe what they want to believe.
Well, there's a reason around that speculation, certainly that if Trump got into power, so there was this Trump trade, so to speak. Again, it's speculation, but the Trump trade was, well, the stock market's going up, maybe
Yeah,
Trump's going to get into power because a Trump presidency, as he said, he's going to lower taxes and all of that. Good for business in that regard, low taxes. And so the stock market would go up. So that was the general assumption, if he got into power. But
yeah,
no one knows until you get to election
yeah.
night anyway. So, but there were a couple of Trump trades. One was the bond market selling off as well. So as people expect, well, if there's more debt under a Trump presidency, yes, it may be pro-growth, but therefore the Federal Reserve won't need to cut interest rates.
Yeah, you're right. There's been a lot of narratives, and I'm sure you agree with me on this, perhaps, that I think believing in narratives is very dangerous and risky because they don't always work out. So I'm a technicals trader, just like yourself. So I follow the charts and I follow what the charts tell me. And I think you're the same. I think our viewers also the same. But I will say this, guys, listen, if you go back to watch my previous videos, again, I want to make sure I mention this. If you watch my previous videos in the last several months, going back to, for example, late August and September, I've been bullish in the stock market. I've also been bullish on Bitcoin. By the way, I put a clip in this video to show you guys that even back in September, when we saw that dip in the stock market, I was saying that I was bullish on the stock market, that I was expecting higher highs. And in fact, I was saying I was getting back into the market. Some people have been commenting saying, oh, Alessio, you're out of the market. Not true at all. Go and watch my previous videos back in September. And also, I'm using the current drop in the stock market that's happening here to accumulate a bit more. So I'm adding to my position based on the most recent drop that is occurring here. It seems the green scenarios, the green bullish scenarios, are probably much more likely. Again, the majority of the data seems to point for a continuation of the uptrend. So for me personally, I'm seeing this drop, this recent drop here in the stock market as a temporary retracement or pullback within a larger degree uptrend towards higher levels. That to me seems much more likely. And the C wave eventually in the next several months taking us towards 5,800 to 5,850, potentially even higher to 5,900. Anyway, Charlie, Trump is now president-elect. So the question is, what now for the stock market and what now for Bitcoin? The first one I want to take a look at, Charlie, is Google Trends. You've seen this already, I think. Interestingly, Google Trends, as I searched it last night, Google Trends, we're talking about a crash, a stock market crash, which is itself a contrarian signal, right?
Yes.
When people are typing in stock market crash, right before the election, that tells you something. It's a contrarian signal usually. What do you think? What do you make?
100%. The stock market is actually, as we know, they've had a good 2024, but also a good 2023 as well. And there's been so many people bearish throughout the last 18 months plus. And so when we keep on seeing that amount of pessimism overall, and that's a great example of that people are looking for stock market crashes, market's probably going to go and do the opposite.
Okay, so let's take a look at the second important chart, Charlie. Firstly, what is interesting is that the month of October was a down month. That was after 5 consecutive bullish months. So we had 5 consecutive green, in other words, bullish months in the stock market, just market going up until October. And then October was a down month. And based on the data, the next chart we're going to take a look at, courtesy of Jason Geppert and Jay Keppel, they said that usually when the stock market experiences 5 consecutive bullish upward months, and then you have a downward month, statistically, this is a very bullish signal for the stock market. And the data actually shows, again, courtesy of Jason Geppert and Sentiment Trader, that usually when this occurs, the median returns 6 months later is about 10%, 9.9, or let's just say 10%. Same goes to the average with a 90% win rate. That's a 90% percentage positive, as you can see right there. So this seems to support the view that the stock market is going to go significantly higher, at least in the next several months. This is a 6-month timeline, so there could be pullbacks in the medium term. But the bottom line is this data seems to support the view that it's very bullish for the market. What do you think, Charlie?
Well, I mean, it's just another statistical piece of data, and it's 90%. It's not 100%, but it's good probabilities. But every market context is always different. But having said that, couple that with a new president who's very pro-growth, then that could be good for the stock markets, at least on the back of that as well. In fact, just post the election. For the month of November, on average, we see in an election year, this very month, on average, we see a gain of about 2% in the S&P and another gain of just over 1% on average in December as well, following an election. Even in the very near term, the history suggests that we should see more upside. So that sits well with me for the time being. Further into 2025, we'll have another chat about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I was expecting the S&P eventually. Even in the interview that I did with Bob Prechter recently, I disagreed. Respectfully, I disagreed with Bob Prechter. Again, listen, guys, I like Bob Prechter. He's a very knowledgeable, intelligent guy, but we disagreed, and it's okay to disagree. And I said to Bob himself at the time, I said, look, Bob, I'm looking for the stock market to go higher, go above 6,000. He did not agree with me on this point. He was very bearish, but I had a different view. My view was bullish for the next several months. Listen, but my expectation, I'll tell you right now, my expectation is that probably the S&P may go above 6,000, probably significantly over 6,000 before we top. That's my own personal belief. What is your view? So, Charlie, your expectation for the stock market, 6,000 obviously is not far away.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. I think we're going to go
Mm.
above 6,000. It's not a certainty, but here's my view, guys. As you know, both Charlie and I look at the markets probabilistically. That means that I'm only going to be bullish on the stock market provided we stay above support. For me, support is at the October lows, October, September lows. And yourself, Charlie?
Yeah, sort of similar. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, the stock market is still very much in a roaring bull market. And yeah, I'd like to see 6,000 being the big round number. I think if we can get up into that zone, at some point, I don't know when it will be, if we get to euphoria stage, then that, like you've already said, there will be pullbacks, then yes, there will be short-term euphoria. But for now, the trend remains to the upside until proven otherwise, until we break a last low, as you said.
Yeah.
So that's the trend. It's straightforward as that, really, at the moment.
Just before we go on to Bitcoin, it's a very good point you just mentioned there, Charlie, which is that the trend has been up for the last several months. The trends, as they say, the trend is your friend. So I think people shouldn't really be surprised that the market has exploded higher, even though it's after the election. I'm sure a lot of mainstream media they're going to explain the market rally based on the Trump win. But again, for most of our intelligent audience here, that's just how the mainstream media spins markets. They try to assign cause. I don't agree with this mechanistic view by the markets about how the news causes. That's completely wrong. I don't accept that. As I'm sure you know yourself, Charlie, and our viewers know, mainstream media will use the same news for either direction. Whatever the market does, they'll use the same news event for both things. Let's go into Bitcoin. Bitcoin also has exploded higher, as I was expecting. I said this in my previous videos. I was expecting Bitcoin to rally higher.
So you can see at the moment, the blue line is below the red line on the MACD indicator. Well, you see, guys, if indeed the MACD indicator gives a bullish crossover in the next few weeks on Bitcoin, which I think is likely, that is what I think is going to happen. That could be a very strong early signal of potential bullish and positive movements on Bitcoin for the next several weeks and months, taking us to the end of the year. The wave 3 taking us to much higher levels, again, towards 74, 75 to 78K. And I should say this particular view is at the moment my higher probability expectation.
So I'm looking for an eventual move, a bullish move into the upper zones that I mentioned, 74, 75K to 78K. So I think these levels could be reached this year. I just wonder whether you agree with this particular wave count that I have here for Bitcoin, for a wave 5 to eventually move somewhere there near 100K in the Roman numerals.
Yeah, no, I like that count. And from 2022, it looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4. Good work.
But there's an interesting statistic that I want to bring up, which is, as I'm sure you've seen it yourself, Charlie, seasonality. And that chart shows, again, courtesy of Jason Geppert of Sentiment Trader, that we're actually in the really good time zone, October. By the way, you may remember I mentioned this, guys, recently in my video about seasonality. The Halloween effect, the Halloween period is one of the best times for Bitcoin, essentially going from October, November onwards, as you can see from this chart. So that shows we're here, as indicated by Sentiment Trader, and they're saying that we're now in one of the best seasonal windows for Bitcoin. So it looks like if seasonality is right for the next several months, then Bitcoin could see significantly higher levels. What do you think, Charlie? What's your view?
Well, the thing is with Bitcoin, you're right. So it had that run when it broke up last October of 2023, and then it ran at that amazing run into about March of 24. And then it's essentially been consolidating for the past 6 months or whatever. So, and we've just broken out back to the upside. So you have to be a bull, so to speak. I say you have to, you don't have to do anything you want. But technically, we've now just broken to new highs. So again, it's bullish. It's in a big bull market. You look at the weekly chart, it's a very much in a bull market. And in fact, on one of our interviews, I think it was at the beginning of this year, or maybe it was the end of last year, I said, if Bitcoin's not at 100,000 by the end of 24, I'm going to eat my hat. So I have got a nice Panama hat ready just in case. So
it's quite brave. That's quite brave, because you could have said, well, I mean, okay, so that's what you said before. But do you think we could reach 100K by the end of this year? By the end of December?
I would never want to write off cryptocurrency, when Bitcoin gets going, as you've just said, as we've just seen here today, when it gets going, it can really leap, and before you know it, it can do, a reasonable amount. I'd love to see it get to 90. I said 100 just because it's the round number, but if it could get to 90, which isn't that far away in relative terms, if these ranges, what happens is we've had a lot of chop, and then all of a sudden you get, a few good weeks of range, and then it's right up there. So I wouldn't want to write that off just yet. I know some people are waiting for me to eat that hat, but let's just see. We've still got 6-7 weeks yet until the end of the year.
The drop to below 50K and then bounce, I think that was a massive capitulation event because it scared a lot of people, drop below 50K intraday. And then I think some people saw, oh, wow, Bitcoin went below 50K to 49. I think just some people panicked. And I said this in my previous videos that I thought that was capitulation for a lot of people. So the weak hands got out. And again, we saw a strong bounce. So that's why I've been expecting Bitcoin to eventually break out and go higher. And we've seen that take place. Oh, wait, there's another chart that I want to bring to our viewers' attention, which was something to do with momentum. So we talked about seasonality and now Bitcoin momentum. The RSI of Bitcoin has, again, courtesy of Jason Gephardt, he mentioned this, that recently, again, Sentiment Trader said that the RSI of Bitcoin went above a certain level, a level of resistance. And when it breaks out, when the RSI breaks out, goes into bullish mode, shows momentum behind Bitcoin's move. So again, another key factor, which is bullish for Bitcoin. And I think they mentioned something like Bitcoin could actually, I forget exactly what percentage they could go up by, but very positive, very bullish sign for Bitcoin.
The momentum, the number one source of momentum is price. And so certainly what we've just seeing here lately on Bitcoin is it starting to accelerate up over this past few weeks anyway, starting to push up. And certainly, overnight and the last 48 hours. So the end of the day, there's nothing better to see when you're looking for momentum is price making new highs. And that's what we're doing. So yeah, absolutely.
Just to make sure I mentioned this point, some weeks ago, I think it was about a month or so ago, I mentioned the MACD on, I think it was the weekly chart of Bitcoin. The MACD was about to cross over in a positive direction. I said, guys, you remember in that video, I said, keep an eye on this, because when the MACD crosses over in a positive direction, and especially when the price remains above its 21 weekly moving average, price usually goes higher. If you recall that video. And by the way, the MACD crossover has occurred on the weekly chart as well, which again is a very positive sign. It should be good for Bitcoin. Guys, if you haven't already joined Charlie Burton's great trading service, go ahead and do so. That's a link right there. charlieburtontrading.com/LT gold. It's brilliant. And again, Charlie has already told you himself what's involved. So you get access to his trading room, plus all the materials which are involved in his gold level membership. You can also watch his tutorial videos. I think, am I correct to get tutorial video access as well?
Yeah. There's all my trading strategies are all in the tutorial videos, plus my live sessions every day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Worth it. Again, what happens is when you go on that link, charlieburtontrading.com/LT gold, apply the premium code as well, LT gold, it drops the price down to £1, which is only about, what is that, like $1.30 something at the moment? Yeah, $1.30. And then, it's a great offer. And I think you're going to really enjoy it. And the link, by the way, guys, is in the description. Go click on it, check it out, take it for a test drive. I think you'll greatly enjoy and benefit from it. Charlie, thank you very much indeed for really good to talk to you in this post-election analysis.
Yeah,
and
I was going to say, thanks for having me on and just having a bit of a chat about the markets. But I'll definitely be having a sleep this afternoon.
The thing is, if I sleep now, I probably will stay awake all night because my rhythm is going to be out of whack.
Yeah.
So I might have to just take some coffee and then take a sleep in the evening.